The year was 1968. Four unknown musicians and their intimidating manager walked into Atlantic Records headquarters. Music executives laughed when they heard their demands. By the end of the meeting, those same executives were sweating. While their peers signed away rights for pennies, this band walked out with a $200,000 advance, about $1.5 million today. But the money wasn't the shocking part. Hidden in their contract was something executives never gave away: 15% royalties and complete creative control. This one meeting would transform music history and save the band $200 million over their career. The rebels who dared challenge the entire system? Led Zeppelin. And what they did next would change everything. Think about that for a moment. At a time when musicians were treated as disposable commodities, Led Zeppelin somehow flipped the script. They went from being four talented but unknown musicians to revolutionaries who would dismantle the entire industry's power structure. Their story isn't just about music that defined a generation. It's about the courage to demand what you're worth when everyone says you should be grateful for scraps. Atlantic Records executives fell silent as the door swung open. At 6 feet 5 inches and nearly 300 pounds, Peter Grant didn't just enter rooms, he consumed them. One executive later admitted, when Grant made demands, you didn't negotiate. You just tried not to show fear. Grant's true power wasn't his intimidating frame. It was his understanding of the music industry's biggest scam. In 1968, most managers took 50% of their artists' earnings. Grant took just 10%. The math was simple. If Zeppelin made more, he made more. This wasn't just generosity, it was strategic genius. By aligning his interests completely with the band's success, he created a partnership where everyone fought for the same goals. During negotiations, Grant crossed out entire sections about promotional costs. When executives protested, he simply stood up to leave. The label's representatives nearly knocked chairs over, rushing to stop him. In that moment, the power dynamic of the music industry shifted. For perhaps the first time, the suits feared the artist, not the other way around. Grant demanded ownership of Zeppelin's master recordings, unheard of for a new band. He secured 100% of publishing rights and refused when Atlantic ordered them to tour non-stop. "We're not working for you," he told them. "You're working for us." Even the Beatles, the biggest band in history, didn't have this level of control. Grant had seen it all before with the Yardbirds. He'd watched talented musicians get robbed by their own contracts. So he renegotiated Zeppelin's live deals for 90% of gate receipts instead of the standard 60%. The promoters were shocked, but they paid. What industry practice would Grant destroy next? You want how much? The Atlantic Records executive nearly choked. $200,000, non-refundable. "Take it or leave it," Grant replied calmly. The room erupted in nervous laughter. Standard advances for new bands ranged from $10,000 to $25,000. Grant was demanding 8 times that amount for an unknown band. What the executives didn't know, Grant had arrived with a secret weapon. He'd kept Led Zeppelin's debut album masters hidden from the industry. The sessions had cost just £1,782, roughly $4,300. If Atlantic refused, they could walk across the street to another label. Grant demanded this payment be non-refundable. Led Zeppelin would keep every dollar regardless of how the album performed. When labels typically added hidden clauses about packaging fees and promotional costs, Grant eliminated these sections entirely. The executives reluctantly signed, convinced they'd made a catastrophic mistake. 6 months later, the truth became clear. By June 1969, Led Zeppelin's debut had sold 3 million copies. At $5 per album wholesale, Atlantic had grossed $15 million, 75 times their investment. While the Rolling Stones toured endlessly to pay back advances, Zeppelin enjoyed complete freedom. No debt, no forced promotion, no creative compromises. A simple sheet of paper revealed the music industry's darkest secret. For every $5 album sold, bands received just 15 to 25 cents. The label pocketed the rest. Even the Beatles, at their peak, earned only 7% royalties. "This isn't a business deal," Grant told the band. "It's legalized theft." When Grant demanded 15% royalties, industry veterans panicked. If one band got these rates, others would demand the same. The entire system was at risk. The numbers tell the shocking story. For the same album selling the same copies, the average band earned just 15 to 25 cents per sale, while Led Zeppelin pocketed a staggering 50 to 75 cents per sale. This dramatic difference meant Zeppelin earned 3 times what their peers did from identical record sales. By 1975, their first 4 albums had sold 20 million copies. Under standard contracts, this would have earned them $3 to $5 million. Under Grant's terms, they pocketed $10 to $15 million. Most bands never saw foreign royalties. Labels often kept international earnings completely. Grant secured full payments worldwide, adding 40% to Zeppelin's income by 1972. Record executives warned that paying artists fairly would destroy the industry. Then Led Zeppelin II sold 4 million copies in 8 weeks. Atlantic still made millions after paying the higher royalties. By 1973, each band member earned over $1 million yearly. This wasn't just about getting rich, it bought them creative freedom their peers couldn't imagine. "This is career suicide," the Atlantic Records executive warned, slamming his fist on the table. "You need singles to survive." The year was 1969. Whole Lotta Love had everything a hit single needed. Radio stations were begging to play it. Atlantic executives were already counting potential millions. Peter Grant's response left the room stunned. No singles in the UK, ever. What the label didn't understand was Grant's brilliant calculation. A single sold for about $1, earning the band 15 cents. An album cost $5, paying them 75 cents. One album purchase equaled 5 singles in revenue. Most managers never looked beyond immediate profits, but Grant was playing chess while the industry played checkers. The strategy was considered so dangerous that Atlantic's chairman warned it could kill the band's career before it starts. Every other successful band from the Beatles to the Rolling Stones relied heavily on singles. Going against this formula seemed like commercial suicide. What happened next shocked everyone. Led Zeppelin II sold 4 million copies in just 8 weeks, without a UK single. At 75 cents per album, that meant $3 million in royalties instead of the $600,000 they would have made from equivalent single sales. Atlantic executives couldn't believe the numbers. Their certain failure had become the fastest-selling album in their history. John Paul Jones later revealed their philosophy. "We saw the album as a canvas, not a collection of singles. The industry was selling sketches. We wanted to sell masterpieces." This artistic integrity resonated with fans who began to see albums as complete experiences rather than vehicles for hit songs. This approach freed them to create music that broke commercial rules. Heartbreaker and Ramble On would never work as radio singles, but in the album context, they became legendary. The band could experiment with 8-minute epics and complex arrangements without fear of commercial pressure. By 1971, the revolution had spread. Bands like Black Sabbath and Deep Purple started refusing UK singles too. Radio stations were forced to play album tracks. The Who's Roger Daltrey later admitted, they changed the power dynamic overnight. Suddenly, bands realized they could say no. The call from BBC's Top of the Pops should have been a career milestone. In 1970, the show reached 15 million viewers weekly. For most bands, an invitation was the ultimate validation. Instead, Grant delivered 4 words that bewildered producers. Zeppelin doesn't do television. When word spread, managers and executives thought Grant had lost his mind. The Beatles and Rolling Stones built empires through television. Refusing TV seemed like rejecting oxygen itself. But Grant had uncovered another industry illusion. TV didn't pay artists anything while generating millions in advertising revenue. "Why play for free," he asked, "when people will pay to see us?" While other bands exhausted themselves on TV, Zeppelin focused on concerts. Their 1970 tours earned $150,000 per week, about $1 million today. The strategy created something priceless: scarcity. In an era when fans saw favorite bands on TV weekly, Zeppelin remained mysterious. To experience them, you had to buy a ticket or album. Their 1971 UK tour sold out in hours, without a single advertisement. The results defied logic. In 1973, they played Tampa Stadium to 56,800 fans, breaking attendance records. That single show grossed over $300,000. Meanwhile, Led Zeppelin IV sold 37 million copies worldwide without a television performance. Their mystique made merchandise valuable too. Concert programs and t-shirts became the only way fans could own part of the experience. Their $2 shirts sold for $10 at shows, generating pure profit. By 1975, the industry finally understood. The Rolling Stones, who appeared on TV constantly, suffered from overexposure. Zeppelin's scarcity kept demand rising. Their 1977 Madison Square Garden shows sold out in hours, creating the first major black market for concert tickets. By 1974, Led Zeppelin had conquered everything except ownership. Atlantic Records still took 15% off every album sale, millions annually for little more than pressing vinyl. During a tense meeting, Grant asked executives, "What exactly do we need you for?" The bombshell followed. "We're starting our own label." When word spread, industry insiders predicted disaster. Artist-owned labels were considered vanity projects doomed to fail. Rolling Stone quoted an executive, "They'll come crawling back within a year." Grant named it Swan Song Records. The genius was its structure. While technically under Atlantic, the agreement gave Zeppelin complete control while using Atlantic's distribution network. They created independence within the system. Their first test came with 1975's Physical Graffiti. As their own label, they negotiated 30% royalties, double their previous rate. When the album sold 8 million copies, the difference was staggering. Under Atlantic, they would have earned $3.6 million. Through Swan Song, they pocketed $7.2 million. That extra $3.6 million went directly to the band instead of corporate coffers. They signed other artists too, with Bad Company's 1974 debut selling 5 million copies. This covered all of Swan Song's operating costs, creating a self-sustaining business model that benefited multiple artists. Robert Plant later revealed the artistic freedom Swan Song provided. "With Atlantic directly, we couldn't have released Kashmir. It was too complex for their commercial formula. With Swan Song, we answered to no one." The 8-minute epic became one of their signature songs, proving artistic integrity and commercial success could coexist. Swan Song's approach to promotion was equally revolutionary. When radio stations expected payola, bribes to play songs, Grant refused. "Our music gets played because people want to hear it," he told them. This ethical stance saved millions while earning respect throughout the industry. For listeners and artists alike, Swan Song represented something profound: creative freedom backed by business power. Its legacy inspired generations of musicians to take control of their destinies. While record sales made headlines, the real fortune was built night after night on stage. "We're not here to advertise records," Grant told a confused promoter in 1975. "We're here to make money." Their 1975 North American tour grossed $5 million. The shocking part was how much they kept. Industry standard let bands take home 50 to 60% of gate receipts. Zeppelin secured 80%. On a $100,000 show, Their peers made $50,000. Zeppelin earned $80,000. Across a 40-date tour, this created an extra $1.2 million in pure profit. Grant's contracts made promoters cover costs that other bands paid themselves. One promoter admitted, "We had to read the contract with a magnifying glass. He thought of everything." While The Who and Rolling Stones exhausted themselves with 100 show tours to earn $2 million, Zeppelin made the same in just 40 dates. This created higher demand. Their 1977 tour sold out 20,000-seat arenas in minutes. Scalpers resold $15 tickets for $300. This strategy allowed them to command $1 million per show by 1977. The Rolling Stones, despite being bigger stars, earned just $500,000 per night. The t-shirts and programs fans bought generated almost as much profit as tickets. While most bands licensed merchandise for 50% of profits, Zeppelin handled everything through Swan Song. Their $2 production cost shirts sold for $10, adding $400,000 in pure profit per tour. Insurance documents revealed their true value. When planning their 1980 tour, Lloyd's of London insured the venture for $25 million, $90 million today. No band had ever been valued so highly. The band reinvested earnings to create spectacular shows. While most acts used basic lighting, Zeppelin spent $150,000 on groundbreaking lasers and sound. Their 1977 Los Angeles Forum run grossed $1.2 million in 6 nights, breaking venue records that stood for decades. The day Led Zeppelin signed their first contract was the day the music industry began to die. These words, from a bitter record executive, contained truth. The band hadn't just built their fortune. They'd created a blueprint that threatened the entire power structure. Their fight for 15% royalties in 1968 established a new baseline. Artists who once accepted 3% now demanded 10% minimum. Today's streaming deals trace directly back to this precedent. When you see artists receiving fair compensation today, you're witnessing Zeppelin's enduring influence. Their touring strategy transformed the concert industry. A 2023 study revealed top artists now earn 80% of tour revenue, matching the percentages Grant negotiated 50 years ago. Every time an artist plays fewer, more profitable shows, they're following Zeppelin's model. Swan Song sparked an ownership revolution. Before Zeppelin, only the Beatles had their own label. Swan Song proved the model could work for any established artist. In 1975, fewer than 5% of charting artists owned their labels. Today, over 60% of Billboard's top 100 artists have self-owned labels or distribution deals. This shift represents billions of dollars flowing to artists instead of corporations. Dave Grohl openly credits Zeppelin. "They taught us to take control." That's why we started Roswell Records. This sentiment echoes across generations of musicians who realized they didn't have to surrender their financial future for fame. The financial impact becomes clearer across their career. While most bands received 5 cents per album, Zeppelin kept 75 cents. They retained 80% of tour profits while others gave away half. Over 12 years and 300 million records, these percentages saved approximately $200 million. Think about that, not $200 million earned, but $200 million saved from exploitation. Their influence extends beyond rock. When Jay-Z launched Rock Nation in 2008, he modeled it after Swan Song. Music historian Stephen Hayden observed, "They turned the business itself into their instrument." By 2023, hip-hop artists had adopted more financial control than any other genre, proving Zeppelin's model transcends musical boundaries. When their 2012 reunion sold out in 15 minutes, 36 years after their last tour, it proved their lasting impact. When Taylor Swift re-recorded her masters in 2021, she followed Zeppelin's cardinal rule: own your work. The fight continues, but the path was cleared by 4 musicians: and their revolutionary manager half a century ago. In a dusty record company vault, there's a contract from 1968 with sections crossed out in bold red ink. Those crossed out clauses, the fine print that had robbed generations of musicians, mark the moment artists began to take back their power. Led Zeppelin proved a revolutionary truth: control your art, control your money. Their $200 million savings came from dismantling an exploitative system piece by piece. Higher royalties, master ownership, eliminating hidden fees, creating their own label, and transforming concert revenue. While their talented peers often ended broke despite millions of records sold, Zeppelin built lasting wealth. The difference wasn't musical genius, it was business intelligence. Jimmy Page's soaring guitar solos didn't make them rich. Peter Grant's crossed-out contract clauses did. Pause for a moment and consider how radical this was. In an era when artists were expected to be grateful just for the opportunity to record, Led Zeppelin demanded to be treated as equals. They weren't just making music, they were making history. This battle continues today. When Taylor Swift re-records her albums, she follows Zeppelin's playbook. When modern artists demand higher streaming rates, they echo Grant's negotiations. The faces change, but the fight remains the same. Artists demanding the value they create. The most valuable lesson isn't just about money, it's about freedom. Creative control gives artists power to make music they believe in, not what executives demand. As Jimmy Page reflected, the greatest thing Peter Grant gave us wasn't wealth, it was the ability to create on our own terms. In an industry built to exploit talent, Led Zeppelin showed another way. Their blueprint still works, if you've got the courage to use it. And every time you stream a song by an independent artist who owns their masters, you're witnessing the continuing power of their revolution. The next time you hear Stairway to Heaven, listen closely. Beyond the music, you're hearing the sound of an industry forever changed. You're hearing what happens when artists refuse to be exploited. You're hearing what happens when musicians finally get what they deserve. Do you think Led Zeppelin's strategies could work for artists today, or has the music industry changed too much? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story of a band beating the system, check out our video on how the Grateful Dead outsmarted the music business. It's linked in the description.